So the other common type of pleat is you find in garments is called a box pleat. Okay, and in front of me I've got two box pleats. This one here is the box pleat, and it's basically made up of two folds in opposite directions to create sort of the illusion of a box, hence the name. This one, however, is called the inverted box pleats, and it's again made up of two folds. It's done in exactly the same way as this. The only difference is that it's been folded on the wrong side of the fabric to create a slightly different illusion. And in all honesty, a lot of full skirts tend to have inverted box pleats as a feature. It's a very common thing to find on dresses, and it's very beautiful. So I'm going to teach you how to do that using two different methods. So every designer appears to mark on the patterns their box pleats differently. So I'm going to illustrate two ways in which you can do a box pleat. So this one in front of me is actually a pattern that I've drafted. Much like the sleeve pattern we looked at in the previous video about knife pleats, you have got a block line in the middle and you've got a dash line at the end. Now the dash lines indicate that that's the fold line, and the block line indicates that that's the line it's being folded to, and you've got two directional arrows helping you out here. So I'm going to mark the fabric and mark this into position by doing those little snips, again about 5mm or about 1/8 of an inch in, just to indicate those key points in the pleats. This little skirt has been cut on the fold, so there will be two pleats in the front of the garment. So I'll place that down there. Okie dokie. So unfolding it, you'll be able to see that there are sort of 3 notches there and 3 notches there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do inverted box pleats on this garment. So as I said before, it'd be exactly the same if I was doing standard box pleats. I'd just be doing it from the other side. So this is the first pleat I'm going to work on. So I've got an edge notch, and I've got my center notch. So I'm going to take the edge notch and I'm going to fold it wrong side to wrong side. I'm just going to give that a gentle finger press, and I'm going to take that folded line up and over to the center notch. Now it might be easier, if you're struggling to see where the center line is, to place a pin into position so you've got something to fold against. And when I'm in class, that's what I often get beginners to do. So I'm going to fold this notch to here and place a pin in it. And then I'm going to fold this notch against the other outer one inwards. So they've been folded in different directions. But what's happening as a result is it's created this rather lovely box illusion, and you'll be able to see that this fabric is loose on the underside. So that's pleat 1. I'm going to do the same on the other side, and then I'm going to show you a little trick on how to get these neatly tacked in. So these pleats now have been pinned, and I'm going to give them an under press, being careful not to press the any pin indent into it. And what you'll see from the underside is you've got the standard box pleat like so, and it might be an idea to just give that a little press as well, just to make sure that there is lots and lots of structure in this box pleat, and then everything is sitting where it should do. Okay, so once we've given this an under press and a little bit of a memory, what we're going to do is we're going to add one more thing to this before we baste it together, and that's a little bit of masking tape. So the reason why is because you have got folds of fabric going in opposite directions, and you're stitching in one direction. So what will happen is your feed dogs will be grabbing your fabric that's closest to it, and your top fabric will be moving a little bit, which means that if we're not careful, the line where the two folded the part where the two folded lines meet will end up spreading apart and not look as neat and as lovely as you want it to look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place a little bit of masking tape, remove the pins, and place a little bit of masking tape just outside the seam allowance to secure that pleat in position. It's yet another excellent use for masking tape, but because it's low adhesive and not having got much tacking to it, it's excellent for these sorts of jobs. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and I'm going to baste this on. So I'm using a basting stitch at about 4 or 5 mil, and I'm going to baste all the way through that pleat. Okay, so I want to catch all parts of it, so all the underside as well, and I will then show you the result. Right, so here we go. So this is now the box pleat, or the inverted box pleat, finished. You can see it's going to add a lot of volume to the garment. Very, very pretty. And if you've got a very high contrast fabric, it's going to really, really boost the elegance of the garment. And just to show you, because the back hasn't got a wrong side to the fabric, you can actually see then what it would look like if it was just your standard box pleats. So so there we go. That's how you sew box pleats. You just got to remember that they're going in opposite directions. Right, so we're now going to continue on our box pleat journey, and we're going to look at an alternative way of sewing them, and an alternative marking system for them. So you may be invited to sew box pleats in this way, and having looked through a considerable number of patterns over the last few days in preparation for this video, I noticed that a lot of commercial patterns will ask you to do box pleats in this way. So I'm going to just very quickly teach you how to do it. So on the pattern, you will have 2 pleat lines, or 4 or 6, or however many pleats you've got. In this instance, it's there's a pleat there and a pleat there. Okay, and what the instructions are asking you to do is to sew down. So we'll sew that pleat together and sew down to that point. Okay, so you'll end up with 2 quite sizable pleats, and I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to show you how then to open it up into a box pleat. So I have marked the pleats on this garment by snipping them, but to help illustrate this to the camera, I have got my yellow pins and I've got my blue pins, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold the yellow pin to the blue pin. Okay, and then I'm going to pin that into position. I'm going to do the same on this side. Yellow to the blue, and I'm going to pin that into position. Okay, so what the pattern is asking you to do is take those yellow and blue pins out, is stitch down by about 8 centimeters. So what I've done is, you can't really see it on camera, but with a marker I have actually marked that into position. So you may want to just use some fabric chalk or a fabric marker, friction pen, but just be careful on using it. Test it on the fabric before you start committing to it, just in case it leaves a stain. And what we're going to do is we're now going to sew those pleats down to that 8 centimeter marking point. Right, so these pleats have been sewn now, and they're enormous, but they're not going to stay that way. So basically what you want to do is, it's probably a good idea just to press, so at least you've got the halfway point on the pleat that you've just sewn. Make sure that you're pulling out all the fabric and that seam is sitting dead flat. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the pleat and we're going to open it up, and we're going to join that pressed line with the stitching line that you've just done. Okay, so I'm now going to pin that into position. And I'm going to do the same on this side. So again, just to reiterate, we're opening up the pleat. Okay, and we're taking that ironed halfway point and we're lining it up with the original stitching line and giving that a pin. So you should be able to see now that that's actually created the box pleat. I'm going to give that a little press, and if we come in from the other side, I'll show you from the other side, what this has created is a box pleat that has been stitched down, or an inverted box pleat that has been stitched down and then will flow out to the hemline. It's a very nice garment and a very professional feel to it, but that's the other way you can sew a box pleat.